Welcome to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Alston, and it is my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. I am so excited to be back again this year to bring this podcast. And I want to encourage everybody to please tune in and listen to all of the podcasts that are posted this year because there's a lot of good information. So please take advantage of this unique opportunity. Just in case you did not know, the purpose of the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast is to network our small businesses, share information, and provide needed information for career seekers. So if you're thinking about getting into a specific industry, this is the place to come to get that expert advice. And if you want to, please reach out to all of our experts. They are here to serve you. We would also like to thank our corporate sponsors, a family of authors, Butler Armstead Consulting Solutions, Human Resources Learning Center, JNF Enterprises, and Women Offering Wealth, along with all of our business sponsors who is helping to make this podcast a success. So, as you can tell, I'm excited. What I would like to do is introduce our speaker for today. She is phenomenal. I've been following her on LinkedIn, and I think she's fantastic. And I think that you would get some really good information from this speaker. Before I do, I just want to say one thing that's really important about our small businesses, because part of the podcast is to make sure that we get the point of make really good business advice, and that is having an effective human resource department. I think as a small business owner, we often overlook the benefits of having an in-house HR specialist, and a lot of times we're so small that we can't even afford one. Our resources are very low most of the time, and we just have to make a judgment on who we think is qualified and hire them and make decisions on HR logistics information. But having an HR person who knows how to recognize talents and make sure that we have the right thing for our organization is key. So right now, I want to kind of have our expert here that's going to help us talk about not only her new book, but she's also going to talk about her business and her services and help us understand about human resources and why it's so important. So what I would like to do is introduce Tana Session. She's the founder of TMS Business Solutions Incorporated, and she's also the author of Inside the Revolving Door, Chronicles from the Human Resource Department, and Get Your Career Life in Order. Tanya started her career in human resources as an administrative assistant to the director of personnel at Ernst & Young. Since that time, she realized that human resources was her true passion. She also holds a bachelor's degree in business administration and an MBA in organizational psychology and development. She also has multiple certifications in the field of human resources, and she has a certified license to be a career and life coach. And I think that's fantastic, y'all. Tana also established her TMS Business Solutions as a way of offering her HR and consulting expertise through her consulting classes and speaking engagements. In addition to this, she also serves on the board of directors for the Boys and Girls Club in Hollywood. She's also the vice president of programs and professional development for the National Association of African Americans in Human Resources, and she also volunteers as a career advisement coach with Dress for Success in Los Angeles. So without further ado, I am very excited to have on the podcast today Tana Session. Tana, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Awesome. So Tana, tell everybody all about your new book. I am excited to hear about it. I think it's interesting. And then we could talk about how important it is for us to have an in-house HR specialist or just human resources in general.
Sure, absolutely. Well, the first book I wrote was in November of 2016, and it is called Inside the Revolving Door, Chronicles from the Human Resources Department. And that book is it's a fictional book, and it's based off of a collection of short stories that I, along with some of my HR colleagues who readily donated them to me, and I sensationalized them to save, protect the names of the companies and the individual employees. And what I really wanted to do was give people an inside perspective of what types of situations human resource professionals deal with on any given day, because no 2 days are the same. And, the perception is that HR just hires and fires. And honestly, that's very little about what we do. Most times we're not the actual people who do the hiring or the firing. We just advise and consult the hiring managers through the process. So these stories are actually things that HR professionals have had to deal with on a fictional basis, based on things that were happening within the workplace. So that's why I entitled it Inside the Revolving Door, because people walk by these office buildings and they're looking all shiny and glassy with the chrome and the glass, not really knowing what types of things are going on inside.
Right.
So some are shocking, some are just comical, some will make you clutch your pearls. But it was my test to myself to see if I could really write a book.
Oh,
And
wow. That sounds
mhm,
fantastic. And, let me ask you a question. Without giving away too much
sure.
of the book, is there like a specific scene in the book that you kind of want to share with everybody, just to kind of give a little flavor of what the book has inside?
Sure. One of the ones that people told me that they've enjoyed, it has been a senior partner at a firm who was having an affair with his assistant. And the way they found out was through the cleaning company that would clean the conference room at night. So I'll just leave that right there.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. We don't want to go X-rated. Okay. Well, that sounds fantastic. That definitely gets my curiosity going about what's happening with HR. Okay.
hmm
So, tell us about the other book that you wrote because, I'm really interested, as a career coach myself, I'm really interested in finding out more about your perspective and getting your life in order in terms of your career because that's what I also teach. And I think it's also good for people to see and hear other perspectives on what that really means.
hmm Sure. So I decided to write Get Your Career Life in Order because I had been doing speaking engagements off and on for about 6 months or so, and they were all around helping people get the tools that they need to either get new jobs or transition into other jobs. Maybe something was happening with the company. I was working with Xerox at one point, and it was right before they did their split the first of the year, so they wanted their employees to understand what it would take to go back into the job market and start looking for jobs because some of them would be impacted where they would actually have to leave Xerox for the first time in 20 plus years and go in the job market. And what I realized was that given an hour presentation or an hour webinar still was not enough time for me to really pour into these employees and into these individuals and give them all of the information they needed. So I started collecting all of the questions that they would either ask during the conference, the webinar, or the presentation. And I also received individual emails from them because I welcomed them to send me emails. And I took all of that information along with what I was doing in the presentation, and I decided to write a self-help guide, if you will. So Get Your Career Life in Order has 11 steps in it. And each step takes you to the next in regards to, it starts from when you decide that you want to have a new job, or if you decide that you want to look or seek for that promotion, understanding what is your why, what's really driving that decision, all the way up to and including at the end of the book, you've gotten a new job now, and what do you need to be focused on the first 90 days? So I talked everyone through what types of resumes they need to have depending on where they are in their life. Do they need to have a chronological resume or a functional resume? What types of information should they include on their cover letter? Should they have a summary at the top of their resume, or should they have an objective statement? So really, it's geared towards anyone who is entry level up to those that are more seasoned and that know how to, who may or may not know how to actually go out into the job market and start looking. So this book is really geared towards helping individuals have the tools that they need. It includes worksheets. So I give worksheets in there. I give templates in there, resume templates. I give templates for elevator pitches. I give them an example of one, and then I give them a space to create and write their own. The same thing with behavior-based interviewing or STAR-based interviewing. I give them examples of what that's like, and then I have a page in there where they can give examples of a situation that they've encountered, a task that they were responsible for, what was the action, and then in the end, what was the end result. So that way they have a good story to tell, and they're prepared because once you write it and you see it, it commits itself to memory, and you aren't sitting in an interview struggling trying to come up with examples of situations
Hmm.
that you've handled. So people told me that it's been very helpful.
Hmm.
Everyone from those that are coming out of college, and again up to and including those who've been in the workplace for a while.
Hmm.
I also have a chapter in there geared towards those individuals that are 50 years or older. And the reason being is because what I've noticed through my clients and through working with some of these other companies, that's a demographic that's being impacted in many ways. They're being offered early retirement packages
Mm.
where they feel like I'm only 52, I'm not ready to retire. Their jobs are being eliminated because technology or efficiencies have reduced the need for that job, so now they become redundant, and they're back in the job market for the first time in many years. And also, they've oftentimes been in the same company for a long period of time. So maybe not their entire career, but maybe for the last 10, 15 years, and understanding what is it like now to go back out into the job market. What's required? What does it look like to go
Mhm.
on a job board and look for a job? And how do you put those keywords into your resume to make sure that these applicant tracking systems are going to recognize your resume and move you to the top of the pile? So that's it's chock full of information. I tell everyone it's straight out of my head and my heart into these pages. I tell it to them exactly from a human resources perspective. So it's really like you're sitting across the table from a recruiter and they're giving you all the information you need in order to be successful in your job hunt.
Awesome. That is fantastic. I mean, I'm telling you, that is fantastic because I can't tell you enough how much I stress for people to understand the importance of preparation, regardless of where you are in your career. And I kind of want to take a step back because, people have heard it from me before, but I also want to get your perspective because I think the way that you explain it is so down to earth. When we're talking about giving people tools to prepare, how often do you find it is very difficult to get people to be prepared? I see it all the time, and you kind of touched on it when you give people these tools. But when you're sitting there and you're talking to them in their different stage of life, are they really understanding what it means to be prepared when, for an unexpected situation like unemployment or retirement?
No, actually, they're not. And I think oftentimes they are walking around in denial. And one of the things I do talk to, especially when I'm doing coaching, is helping them understand and embrace that change because it is a change for them. It rocks their boat. It's a big shift in their life. They have to pivot and really think about how is this impacting me, my family, how am I going to pay my bills? So a lot of things are coming at them. It's really like a perfect storm where a lot of things are coming at them at one time and they really aren't focused on, I need to have a very sharp resume and I need to do mock interviewing. Some people feel, well, I know how to do an interview. Do you really? When's the last time you've interviewed? Not just internally, but externally. Internally is a little different. I've interviewed internally and it's a little more relaxed. People know it's a formality versus going to a company you've never been in before, not even knowing what the culture is like,
Hmm.
or who some of the key players are. So, and that's why I tell people with the book, don't just read it and put it on a shelf. You really should study it, use it as a guide, write in it, rewrite it. I tell people put it in pencil first before you put it
Hmm.
in ink,
Exactly.
um, and then keep it on you. Even if you're currently employed, have it in your desk. So that way, because you'll always, I tell people, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Hmm.
But if an opportunity comes along that you weren't expecting, sometimes recruiters are on LinkedIn and they come across someone's profile and they're like, hey, this person would be great for this opportunity. I haven't been able to find someone through the job board, so let me reach out to them. And you may get a surprise, job proposal. So you want to be ready.
Exactly. And what would you say about parents who really should promote good knowledge, quality knowledge on how to prepare? Like some of the classes that I'm doing for the students, for all the different institutions, they're really starting, the teachers, I would say, over here in Prince George's County, they're really starting to get into really preparing these kids, to go out there and get a LinkedIn account and have their resume done and all that kind of stuff. Um, what is your perception on what parents should really try to do in terms of the first steps if they haven't done anything yet, or they're thinking about doing something, or maybe they have done something? What advice would you give them to help them?
That is a really good question. I actually just had a mom reach out to me who wanted me to work with her son. So her son graduated from college in 2016, and he's been working these little odd jobs here and there. And she feels like we paid all this money for him to go to college. He needs a real job. And she said, I looked at his resume and it's embarrassing. And I was like, okay, well, what is it that he wants to do? And so I spent about an hour on the phone just really talking to him and getting inside his head to understand what it was he was looking for, what was really his passion, how could we turn it into something where he can monetize in terms of a job. These millennials aren't necessarily keen on a regular 9 to 5. They don't necessarily want to have to go into an office every day. I've had my son tell me he doesn't want to work like me, and I was like, what does that mean?
Mhm.
So, my advice to his mom was, first of all, good job in recognizing that he needed help. And also, I gave her, recognition for the fact that she knew she wasn't the best person to help him. So I think, finding someone who either is a career coach, or even if it's sending them to an employment agency where they have some people that can work with them to really guide them, look at their resume, help them understand, how to apply for jobs, how to target their job search, so they're not just applying for any and everything that pops up. How to set their LinkedIn profile up so that it's attractive to recruiters. Because I tell people, if you're not on LinkedIn, you pretty much don't exist. And
Mhm.
if you are on LinkedIn, you should have a good quality profile that will entice a recruiter. Because again, if they're doing searches for keywords, looking for individuals who may have the experience or may have worked for a particular company, you want your profile to be able to pop up in that search as often and as frequently as possible. And towards the top of that search as well, because at that point, that's going to entice them to want to proactively reach out to you. I helped this gentleman with his resume, gave him a really strong cover letter, and also walked him through how to update his LinkedIn profile. And in the end, his mom was very happy, which was great because she was the one who was paying for the service, and he was appreciative. And she even said, I got more information out of him than she probably would have ever been able to do, because once he realized that this was a service and that it was something that was going to really benefit him, and that I was listening to him, he was much more engaged. Again, I'm hoping that he lands something really soon. I've referred him to a couple agencies. He's in New York for the type of work that he's looking to do, and I'm waiting to see what happens.
Awesome. Okay, so I have one more question for this part of the segment. What is the best advice that you can give career seekers about their overall professional status? Like when they come to an office to do an interview, particularly in an interview or just in presentation, in terms of presentation, because I think for me, this is the strongest point of my teaching with folks. I kind of want you to give them, take the worst thing that ever happened and turn this into an advice for all job seekers. This might be something that commonly happens all the time, that it's just a simple thing that can be changed. But I think a lot of times people don't realize how they present themselves when they come to an
Mm-hmm.
interview, or when they even get on the job. And so, from an HR perspective, I kind of want you to, just give that piece of advice to people to say, this is what you really need to do, or this is what HR or hiring managers are really thinking, when you walk in the door.
Hmm. Well, first impressions last, and these days everyone makes snap decisions based off of what they see visually. So, in one of the speaking engagements that I give, where I talk about personal branding, I tell people, it's less than 15 seconds, and someone can make a first impression about you, and that's pretty quick. So you want to come across as confident. You want to make sure you're dressed appropriately, even if it's a casual work environment. If you've done your research and you see, it's Google and you can wear jeans and a polo shirt. Well, I say for that interview, come dressed in business attire. And then once you've gotten the job and you understand what the culture is and you understand what the dress code is with your particular team, then you can adapt. I also tell them to avoid distractions. So for women, big clunky jewelry, loud perfume or scented lotion. Same thing with gentlemen in terms of, cologne. Be careful with that. Stay away from it. I do the same thing to this day. If I know I'm going to a networking event, I try not to wear perfume, because you never know what people's allergies are. And what you don't want them to have is a negative distraction. So it may smell good on you, but for someone else, it may not smell so good. And, I've had a situation where I had a candidate that was very qualified for the job. He came in smelling, it was nice cologne, but it was very loud. And
Wow.
at the end of the day, my office still smelled like his cologne. And whenever someone came in my office, they kept asking me, what does that smell? And that was the only thing I could remember about him by the end of the day. And that's not what you want. You want them to remember the fact that you made a great impression. You want them to remember that you answered the questions succinctly and concisely. You want to make certain that they remember you gave great examples of how you can help solve their problem, because that's what you're there to do, is to solve their problem. That's why they're looking for someone. They have a problem that they need fixed. And I
Exactly.
also tell them, think about it as, in a lot of ways, think about it as you are a consultant. So coming in asking a lot of questions that are relevant, but also shows that you're engaged and that you're really interested in understanding what their needs are and aligning your experience to tell them and help them see you in that position.
Yes, absolutely. All of those are definitely key things. So everybody who's listening today, please listen to what Tana is saying. This is so crucial. And there's one thing that I want to add on to the end of that list is that remember that anytime you go for an interview or job, you have to justify the value of your services because that's how they justify the value of your pay. Your
Hmm.
salary. So anytime you walk in there, you could be the best person in the world and you can come in and be very, looking good and presenting well. But if you cannot show that value in your skills and you can't show that value, they can't put a dollar value on your salary. So I just wanted to add that last piece.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next segment about small businesses. I know for myself, I'm just one of those really small businesses that I can't afford an HR person, but I know that when I have staff or need more staff, I'm going to need to be able to hire the right person and be able to follow all of the protocols that all businesses should be following. And I kind of want you to kind of talk about the importance of that because, there's a lot of minority businesses out here that are small, just like I am, but they're
Hmm.
growing, and they need to understand, the ramifications of not having an effective HR system in place. And kind of just want to get your perspective on that.
Sure. And I'm a small business as well, so I can definitely appreciate that. And a lot of my clients are small business owners as well. If a small business can't necessarily afford to bring someone in full time as a full time employee, I would say look at two options. One would be maybe part time, maybe 20 hours or 15 hours a week to help you put in the infrastructure that you need in regards to employee handbooks, employee files, training for new hires, or onboarding for new hires, as well as the offer letters that you're sending out, making sure that those are buttoned up as well, because those types of things will be held in court if you're ever sued. They're going to bring every single document you've ever given to an employee to use against you. So you want to make sure that your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed on every piece of paper you send across to them to review and to sign, starting with your handbook and your offer letters and on down. If you can't afford to bring someone in part-time, then look to bring in a consultant. Maybe perhaps pay a monthly retainer, pay on a project based only. So that way you have someone that really is there from the outside looking in, who's asking the right questions. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be a pro in regards to employment law, because that's why we have employment lawyers, but they should know enough to the point where they can advise you accurately, point you in the right direction, make sure that you're doing what you need to do to protect yourself, protect your company, and also protect your employees. You want to make sure you have workers' comp insurance. You want to make sure you're paying the right payroll deductions, for unemployment, et cetera. All the things that will really get you hung up in court, especially with wage being a big ticket item for employment lawyers right now. Wage theft is what they call it, where you're not paying people the proper either hourly salary, or you're not paying them for time that they use to, let's say they have to put on a uniform. Well, you have to pay them for that time. So understanding what that means and looks like as well. I was just at a legal update here in California last week, and the types of lawsuits that are, on the calendars right now are ridiculous. But because they didn't have the right infrastructure in place and they didn't have someone doing oversight and asking questions, and of course, the employer just thought they were doing the right thing or the best thing that they could for their business. In the end, it came back and now they're being sued. And sometimes it can turn into a class action lawsuit.
Oh my goodness. Wow. And we don't think about these things because we're too busy running our business and saying, "Oh, I just
Hmm.
need to hire this person." But it's important for us to be able to know what our contractual obligations are and what our rights and what their rights are. And when you hire someone, that's another contractual obligation, that you're bringing somebody
Absolutely.
on, you're paying the benefits for a service. And if things are not going right, if the employee is not happy, there could be different things that can happen if you don't have an effective human resources system in place. And that is so very important. I can't even ask any more questions of that because you pretty much tied it up in a nice little bow. If you don't have a way, find a way, even to the smallest minute way, to get that system into your small business if you plan on hiring someone, or talk to a lawyer, or talk to your accountant that's going to help you with that. Make sure that you get in touch with Tana. She can help you if you don't have anybody else to talk to. Her contact information is on this page. So make sure that you talk to her and get that information. So Tana, so tell us about TMS Solutions, because I'm excited to know all about your business, what you offer. Tell everybody what you do and how you can help everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you. So TMS Business Solutions, that's my baby. I started in 2014, and I really went full throttle towards the end of 2015 when I left corporate America. And I really just, I stepped out on faith, and I bet on myself, and I just said, I'm going to take all this intellectual property that I've learned and gained over the years in corporate America, and I want to take it and help smaller businesses and individuals succeed. So I do human resources consulting for small to mid-sized companies, and sometimes large, depending on what types of projects their HR team wants to outsource. And then I also do career and life coaching for individuals. And sometimes I do coaching for executives that are within a company. So there's someone who is on a succession plan, but they have some gaps in terms of personality traits or inter communications, how are they dealing with their team members? What type of feedback have they received on a 360? I help kind of manage them through that and give them some action items that they can work on to help close the gaps that they need to close in order to be successful in their careers. So coaching was something that I started doing almost by accident. I started doing it when I was in my corporate role. And what I realized was that at two occasions, I actually coached the people out of their job because after they had spent so much time in my office, I realized that they were trying to fit themselves, square peg into a round hole, and it just wasn't a good fit for them. And I had one of the managers come to me and they said, "Hey, I sent so-and-so to you to coach, and now they've resigned." And I was like, "Well, that's a good thing because they've been unhappy for a very long time." And there's nothing we can do to fix that. All the talking in the world is not going to change the fact that, they have some issues where they're not going to be happy in this job. This is just not the job for them. And so that's when I started really looking into what is coaching, this thing that everyone's talking about. Is it a fad? Is it something here to stay? Well, it's definitely here to stay. Companies are really starting to see an appreciation for it now. I know a lot of coaching colleagues of mine who have, long-term engagements with companies. So I like the fact that companies are embracing it. They don't see it as a fad. They see it as a necessity. And they actually offer coaching to their executives and their up-and-coming, high potentials as a reward versus in the past, it used to be punishment. So I really like that part of my business because it gives me that more intimate relationship with my clients. And then I also do speaking engagements. As I mentioned before, companies will hire me to come in and talk to their employees about different things that are going on. Personal branding has been like one of the number one things people book me for. I also talk about millennials entering the workforce and, how do you retain and engage them, through the process, through their career. So those types of things are what I do under my TMS Business Solutions umbrella.
Wow, that is fantastic. And a lot of people are saying, you bringing on people who's in your same career field, but guess what? We're all in this together.
Yes.
And one of the things and this is going to be new this year that I'm going to be asking all my speakers, because this is a networking event. I want you to tell everybody, what is it that you need for your business to network with someone else? I mean, is it any type of service, or are you looking for partnerships? I want you to be able to also network on this podcast about your book, about your business, your business advice, your HR advice. Is there somebody out there that you're looking for that can help TMS Solutions?
Great. I like that, Ann. I think that's a great platform, and I've never experienced that before, so thank you.
You're
um,
welcome.
for me, I think I would definitely be interested in organizations that may be looking to have a speaker come in and talk to their employees, or perhaps an affinity group. I've talked to a couple of internal employee resource groups before about different things in regards to their career. And I'm definitely looking to partner. I have another HR colleague out of Atlanta that I partner with, and depending on where the jobs are, if it's something on the West Coast, I'll take it on. If it's something on the East Coast, she'll take it on. So I'm definitely looking to expand that reach as well with other consultants. And then, of course, anyone who's looking for coaching, I do business coaching. I do personal branding coaching, as well as, career and life coaching. It all kind of comes in together.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Well, Tana, I want to thank you for being on the podcast and giving us such really good information. Um, everybody who's listening, I really want you to take all this stuff in, because these people are coming on this podcast and really pouring out their expertise for all of us to network and understand. Because one, as a small business, we can't do it alone. We have to network with each other in order to be a strong community. That's part of the movement and support small businesses movement. So I encourage everyone to please listen to the podcast. Make sure that you take note of Tana Sessions' contact information here on this page. Check out her bio, go to her website, connect with her, reach out to her if you can, partner with her, or if you need career advice, or if you need some coaching, or you need a speaker. Definitely use the experts that are here on this page. And Tana, I want to thank you today for being on the podcast and talking with me today.
Thank you, Ann. I appreciate it. Thanks for this opportunity.
No problem.